Hi, tonight we're
Hi.
talking more about how when we eat well and eat foods that really benefit our body, it benefits our mood, which then in turn...
And when we have a good mood, we communicate more effectively. Hey, I'm Michael Canner. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Anchored Mind.
And I'm Kristen Canner. I'm a registered dietitian and another one of the co-founders here at Anchored Mind.
And we're married.
Tonight we made salmon and tomatoes with onions and garlic and basil and balsamic vinegar. We have a salad with broccoli, celery, pumpkin seeds, onions, and like a lemon vinaigrette on top, and then also with mashed Yukon Gold potatoes for a little carbohydrate in there. And we felt like this was a good meal just because it's full of anti-inflammatory foods. You've got great fiber, you have omega-3 fatty acids, the type that are especially good for our brain and our mood and our health. So we love the combination of this meal and also the colors too. And it's delicious.
It's very colorful.
Yeah.
AKA, I'm a very lucky man.
We like to eat good food together. It's enjoyable to us. It feels good.
Good food, good mood.
That's right. Dig in.
So we thought we'd start by sharing a little bit more of our story.
When we first met, I thought Michael was really handsome. We enjoyed is handsome. I found myself being really careful, like not to dive into the relationship too fast.
You know, she was very careful.
I was very careful. I was just at that point where I wasn't wanting to overcommit and feel pressured. That's the best word for it.
I definitely didn't do that.
I felt a lot of pressure. And I think the word I started to use, because I started to kind of backpedal away from it because it started to feel like too much to me. I think I even used like the feeling of suffocation because I couldn't find my feelings. I couldn't find my words. I didn't know how to be in the relationship and communicate my feelings. So I really struggled until we kind of dove into that a little bit more.
And then when she struggled, I struggled. We were both pretty unaware that if I felt anxious, which I didn't really know I was experiencing at the time, that would lead to her feeling anxious. And that exposed us to the concept of attachment. Attachment theory is all about how when two people come together, anxiety drives their closeness or their distance or their conflict. It's really just how we connect with other people. And largely that's informed by how we grew up. I thought I was doing all the right things in pursuing her, and then she just dumped me. And it was really because she felt so overwhelmed and, like she said, suffocated. So that was a hard lesson for me and a very difficult, few months of us just taking a break, really. And I didn't know if we would have another chance, but in that time, we both did our own internal work and just, I think, reflected on some things that maybe we haven't addressed our entire lives that we both needed to.
Not running was the first step in learning to just say out loud that I was feeling a little overwhelmed or that I was wanting to move away because I didn't know what was happening and why I was feeling that way.
When I feel anxious, it made her move away. And when she moved away, that made me anxious. But little did we realize that she would feel anxious when I would feel anxious. And so we both just responded to anxiety differently. We had to learn each other's attachment from how we grew up differently so that we could stay connected.
Yes. Understanding more about attachment helped both of us lean in and identify what's going on. And that made all the difference in our relationship, I would say.
So I'm known as a pursuer. When I feel anxious, I pursue like a cat. And she's known as an avoider.
Mm-hmm.
So she runs away like a mouse.
Run fast as
really
I
good
can
at
go. Yep.
Problem was, we're both really good at that, and we were running in the same direction. In order for us to turn towards each other, I had to practice regulating my anxiety so that she didn't feel anxious from me feeling anxious. But it also works the other way. If she felt anxious and ran away, that would increase my anxiety, making me chase after her. So as you can see, there's really no clear start and end point. It's just a crazy cycle.
Yeah. I had to learn how to stay where I was at, identify the feelings that I was having and communicate them so that we could work on it together. And as soon as I learned how to communicate some of that, which learning about attachment really helped give me those words to understand what was going on. But as soon as I learned how to do that, then we were able to really work on it. It felt like something that we were capable of doing once we understood what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, language definitely helped. Emotional awareness helped. But for me, it was almost, I didn't even realize I was anxious. To me, this is like my normal state. I think what helped me realize I was experiencing anxiety was not understanding why she was reacting the way she was. I thought, is this something I didn't know about her? Or, I didn't recognize how much responsibility I had in driving her away, basically. And so fast forward now into our marriage, we both still have to be aware of that dynamic, because sometimes I can be too much, and that will make her want to create space, and sometimes she forgets to connect, and so she is very task oriented, so she'll be really busy with information and things, and so we both have found ways to basically remind each other that it's okay to have space and be busy with things, while it's also important for us to remain connected, and that is our balance. That is how we use attachment in our marriage.
And we can really feel when things are starting to get out of balance, and I guess since we've worked on it, we can more easily know like how to fine tune and correct a little bit to get back on track.
Sometimes she'll say, I'm feeling a little disconnected, or how can we reconnect? Or hey, let's plan to connect tonight. Or hey, let's plan to connect. Sounds a little suggestive. We actually use this language. The whole point is not to find the right textbook terms, it's to find the right terms that work for you.
Yeah.
Make this more of a natural language, but obviously communicate in a way that is less informational and more relational.
Even though the information is still important.
It is.
We love talking about marriage, and we're so grateful for the resources that are out there that have helped us make that progress. We've reaped the benefits of it for sure.
And it doesn't really feel like work anymore.
Yeah, it feels natural.
Yeah. It did in the beginning. It felt awkward in the beginning.
It felt really hard, I think, to me especially. I don't do that type of work. I haven't grown up like that, communicating feelings.
It's more just, what kind of a relationship do we want? We're both wired uniquely. In some ways we're different than our family, and in other ways we're very similar. So it was more just what do we want to continue from where we came from, and what do we want to maybe make new of our own? So some of the ways we talk to each other is totally new, and definitely was foreign to both of us at first.
Yeah.
I'm also more of the feelings person in the relationship, and she's more of the logic. So we bash the stereotype of men being more logical and women being more emotional.
I value information.
I do too. I just prioritize feelings and relationship first. I think connections very
And
important.
naturally, I did not before
did
we met. When I grew up really heavily in sports, and it was so advantageous to be able to put feelings and emotions aside.
Therein, we create a nice balance, which is absolutely part of attachment, accepting each other's influence, and just prioritizing connection.
Even though you sold me on the value of relationships, I also felt like you were valuing my characteristics or who I am at the same time. You weren't discounting those or being condescending in any way. And so it did feel like at the end of the day, we were meeting in the middle, which was so nice. Didn't feel like I was the only one working on things, or I was the only one that was having to learn things. It felt pretty mutual, which was nice. Yeah, the first year to me was incredibly hard because it was just hard work. It was work that I hadn't done before, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I think because of that, it led to the more concentrated year of conflict for us in our entire marriage.
Yeah.
But it was necessary, we now see. Like we had to get that feelings and needs language out there. Conflict is a conflict of feelings and needs. And so it's two selfish people learning how to be selfless. And that took us a while to basically learn with each other. But once we got through that, it was almost like the conflict was worth it because it taught us so much.
Yeah.
And it got a lot out there, even though it got hard and messy.
And I'm not well versed in understanding the stuffed feelings that I was having. So getting those out there for the first time was awkward and not pretty, and again, uncomfortable. But luckily he was a safe place to do that. And he helped make that a positive thing, that we were communicating more instead of a negative thing that, I didn't know how to do it. So it eventually got better. It didn't take that long. It was a hard year, but we slowly made progress. And then now I feel like we don't have the bumps that we run into are just much smaller.
Yeah, smaller, and we move through it a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to credit our spiritual beliefs. It helps move us towards practicing being selfless. And to me, that's the definition of love, is you choosing someone else over yourself.
Yeah, we still get into conflict.
Yeah.
It's just short and...
Not really, though.
What conflict? We did... It's just short-lived.
Yeah.
It's like easier to see the end, see what we need to do. It's just not as overwhelming.
For me, being a little bit more feelings-driven, sometimes more sensitive, took me a long time to admit that. One thing that really helps me stay regulated, especially with my own level of anxiety, is exercise. So I consider that my medication. Exercise helps me get out of my own way. And so from the brain chemicals that get released to the physiological engagement, from resistance training to endurance training, it's just, it's part of, ideally, my daily routine. And I just noticed that I'm a better, more selfless version. And there's of course a lot of science to it, but that's what works for me and helps me show up at my best.
Yeah, it does. I notice a difference when you get workout in. And making good food and also keeping tabs on my relationship with food too makes a big difference in how I feel. I definitely feel more anxious if I can feel that is off or out of balance. So that's definitely something we talk about and we keep front of mind too as a family.
It's true. So hopefully you've enjoyed listening to us. This is our first time doing this kind of an episode, and so consider it a beta test. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, if there are comments on the medium you're watching, and we'd be happy to engage with you in some way. We don't necessarily consider ourselves experts. We definitely are professionals. We're both licensed in our fields, but we are very much still learning, both in our professions as well as in our marriage.
Yeah, we just love it, and we know that it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So it's worth it to hang in there. It is.
Yes. So,
thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.